Radical Islam is the snake in the grass that is waiting to bite you, but moderate Islam is the grass hiding the snake. This is important because in the Quran, in Surah 15:9, we have that Allah will certainly preserve the Quran. He will keep it from corruption. Yet, we know for a fact it's been corrupted because of the mouth of Aisha. So us Christians, the people of the book, the people of the gospel, we must judge by the gospel what is true. He will make Christians superior to everyone else. And yet, if you read the Bible, you will know that it contradicts the Quran. Not only that, he might have been bisexual. So he had this maybe affair with the handsomest man in Arabia. Ooh, Dia Al-Qabi, the boy wonder Dia. There is a death order for dogs in Islam. They kill puppies. I'm not even kidding. If nothing else in this video makes you angry, them killing puppies should make you angry. Allah cannot possibly occur. He is illogical and he makes no sense. And the ending words of the apostate prophet, stay away from Islam. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the top 10 things that every Christian, really just every non-Muslim, should know about Islam. And even some things that Muslims should learn, because there's a lot of moderate Muslims that don't really know what the Quran and what the Hadith say. They think they do, but their imams and their sheiks have lied to them their entire lives. So they're just unaware of some of the really terrible things that exist in the Muslim sources. So starting off the list at number 10, a big misconception is that Islam is growing exponentially. It's growing rapidly. Really, this is not true. And it's actually the opposite. There's a giant wave of apostasy that's currently happening. The reason why people think Islam is growing is because of the birth statistics. So they're counting people as Muslims who are not even born yet. And they're counting like newborns and infants as Muslims, even though they have absolutely no say in what their religion really is. But when you start looking at the statistics of the youth who have, become rational people, once you start looking at those statistics, it completely changes. In the US, 23% of adults, young adults specifically, so ages like 18 to 30, who were raised Muslim, left Islam. That's quite a high number. And it actually is that or higher across the board in even non-Muslim countries. So in 11 Arabian countries, the amount of people identifying from not religious rose from 2012 from 8% to 13% in 5 years. That's a 61% increase in just 5 years. And among the youth, it's even higher increase, up to 25% group, 25% of all youth leaving Islam in the Middle East and North African region. So this is not just the West, it's not US and Canada, it is the Middle East is becoming less religious in general, but specifically less Muslim. They're converting. According to the Arab Barometer, which is a research fund that keeps track of the ongoings and statistics within the MENA region, so the Middle East and North Africa, according to them, they found that among the youth, there was a rising amount of atheism from 12% to 18% in 5 years, and 47% specifically of Tunisia, they were no longer religious by 2019. So this actually even increased since then, and in the US it's around 46% now, and in Saudi Arabia it's 24%, which is a lot, because Saudi Arabia, that has Mecca and Medina, like it has Islam as its core, and yet 24% of the youth in Saudi Arabia are not Muslim anymore. Turkey is the same thing. They have a 10% drop in religious identification over the last decade. And then the apostate report, the XMNA apostate report in 2021 found that of the ex-Muslims in the US, 85% of responders were aged 22 to 44, with 37% specifically in the age range of 23 to 28. So the youth are running away in record numbers. Among any other religion, they have the highest apostasy rates. And don't just take my word for it. Take the word of this sheik.
Something that is really threatening the core of our society. Something that is so severe, so serious, that almost every single day I deal with it, every single day. And that is Muslim youth leaving Islam. What percentage do you think that would be? Is it 2% of our youth? Is it 3? Give me a number. I want to share with you. Give me a number. 10, 5%. No, I want more than 5. 15, more. 24% of Muslim youth are leaving Islam.
Wallahi, some people have been calling me and giving me some emails. Brother, I have doubts. What doubts, man? What embarrassment is that? Why you have doubts? Why? Get the hell out of here. And these weak Muslims in the West, sending me emails and this, I'm losing my face and I'm a Hafiz. I'm losing, get the hell out. You are never a strong believer in the first place, you weakling.
It is rare that you would find back home a young man or a young woman addressing their parents, their family, and telling them, I don't believe in Allah. I don't believe that Muhammad was a messenger of Allah. I don't believe that the Quran is a book of revelation. That is unthinkable. That is the unthinkable. It is happening. It is happening continuously. It is going to become an avalanche, a tsunami that is going to hit our community in such a way that we will have a very difficult time standing. It will knock us over.
I couldn't have said it better myself. There's absolutely this giant wave, this tsunami of apostasy that's happening in the world right now, where Muslims are just disappearing. The real number of Muslims in the world is probably half or so of the reported number. So there might not even be 1 billion Muslims in the world who haven't apostatized. The reason for this apostasy is because in the Quran, in Surah 4, Ayat 89, we have, they wish you would disbelieve as they have disbelieved, so you may be all alike. So do not treat them as allies unless they immigrate in the cause of your laws, unless they become Muslims. But if they turn away, then seize them and kill them wherever you find them. They do not take any of them as allies or helpers. This is every single thing. Slay them where you find them. So apostates are to be in the name of Allah. So the reason why we have such weird statistics for Islam is because they're counting people not yet born, they're counting the just born, and they're not counting apostates because, so according to Iran, the official census of Muslims is 99% of the country is Muslim. They don't just say 100%, which is funny to me, but they say 99%. Whenever they've done online anonymous polls, they actually found that anywhere from 50 to 66% of Iranians are not Muslim anymore. And they actually just closed in 2023 50,000 of the 75,000 mosques within Iran. So 60%, 2/3 of all mosques in Iran have closed due to low attendance. So probably around half of the actual, and this is a bunch of other surveys. Jamin's 2021 survey found that only 20 or 32% of Iranians identified as Shia Muslims, with the majority of them showing that they were apostates. This is just generally the case. And if you talk to Iranians who actually have access to the internet, they will be like, yeah, people, they don't go to the mosque. They're not actually Muslim. They're not even really cultural Muslims. But there's entire families pretending to be Muslims out of fear of dying for being apostate. That's just common. Turkey's probably in the same boat. We have lots of places where, like Pakistan, where death for apostasy laws are, you will for sure die for being apostate. These countries likely only have maybe half, maybe less than half of the people who are actually following the religion. So if the major Islamic countries, most of them are apostates, or half of them are apostates, and the numbers are overinflated because they count anyone ever born to a Muslim family anywhere in the world, and they're counting the unborn, there's probably less than 1 billion Muslims in the world. Pretty conservatively. We could maybe even push that down to 500 million. And that number is shrinking. Likely, at the rate it's going, the apostasy rate as it's going, because it's increasing, the apostasy rate is increasing to 30, 40, 50%. As it increases to 100%, we will no longer see Islam by 2060. That is, I think, David Wood's prediction. I think that is a reasonable prediction. I think Islam is going to be under 100 million people by 2060. I think with your help and with sharing this kind of information, we could push that to 2030. We could get Islam to be less than 100 million people by 2030, because most Muslims are good people. They just don't understand the evil that they've been a part of, that they've been born into, the culture they've been raised in is filled with evil. They don't know it because they've been lied to. So this video is to help you understand the issues within Islam. I'm going to make another video targeted just towards Muslims, and it's going to be very loving and careful and slow, and it's going to show, okay, everything you think about Islam that you think is true is actually false, and hopefully get them to see, hey, we need to leave this religion because it is awful. So that's number 10. Number 9 is Islam is a religion of violence and extreme violence. This is something that, whenever the 9/11 terror attacks were happening, I remember them, although I was a boy. The media was like, let's not blame all Muslims. This is not an Islam problem. This is a hate problem. When they don't realize that within Islam, there are direct calls for violence for a variety of groups. And it's not just like, oh, do violence to them because they've done this. It's do violence to them because they are this, which is very different. It is systematic bigotry that is called for violence and murder in the name of bigotry. That is what Islam teaches. And let's look at their sources. So we have in Surah 9, verse 5, "But when the forbidden months are past, then fight and slay the pagans wherever you find them, and seize them, besiege them, and lie in wait for them at every path. But if they repent and establish regular prayers and practices regular charity, they do alms tax," which is part of the 5 pillars of Islam, "then open the way for them, for Allah is oft forgiving, most merciful. So wherever you find pagans, you slay them." And this is actually one of the calls that groups like and everyone else, they quote these surahs, even though there are verses like Surah 256 where it's no compulsion in religion. That's what moderate Muslims like to point to. This is something that Christians need to understand. The surahs that are written after, not by number but chronologically, so whenever he is in Medina writing, the violent ones like Surah 5, Surah 9, these surahs are written after the earlier surahs, like Surah 2, the cow. So whenever you have later writings, it's what's called abrogation. So the earlier is done, it's gone, it no longer applies, the later applies. So whatever was written last is what applies. Surah 9 is the second to last written surah, and Surah 5 is the last written one. These are the most explicitly violent parts of the Quran, and they are the ones that Muslims are to follow by example. Surah 256 does not apply anymore because of Surah 9, telling them to kill polytheists and to oppress and enslave Jews and Christians, which we'll get to. But I invoked Surah 9:5 in 2014 when they slaughtered the Yazidis, and in Pakistan, blasphemy mobs such as in 2021, there was a lynching that occurred where they echoed the sentiment where they found someone who was considered a polytheist because they converted to Christianity, and they lynched them. Now, in that lynching, they accused them of all these heinous crimes, and none of that was true. They just wanted to kill them because that is what Islam teaches. It's death first, questions later. So there is another passage which gets into the hadiths, which are like the collections of writings about Mohammed, what he taught, what he said, what he did. In Sahih Muslim 29:22, there's a hadith about the end times will not happen, so no Muslim will reach paradise until every single Jew on the planet is slaughtered. And will come a time where they are slaughtering the Jews so much that the Jews are hiding behind trees and rocks, and even the trees and rocks will call out to the Muslims and say, "Oh, servant of Allah, there's a Jew behind me, come and slay him." That's part of the reason why they hate Jews so much, is, Muhammad was made fun of by Jews, got a chip on his shoulder, then he said, in his dying breath, slay the Jews and persecute the Christians. He hated Jews so much, and that's where a lot of this anti-Jewish policies are coming from, is from these hadiths. And the Hamas 1988 charter quotes this hadith and says that they are going to accomplish, they're going to slaughter all the Jews. In 2017, a Gaza imam quoted this on TV, which then brought about all of the, a massive uptick in Jewish persecution and murder, and eventually led to the Hezbollah rhetoric and all the launching and rockets, everything of 23. And then they also echoed it on TV and whatnot. And this gets into the rewards for terrorism, for murder. So in the Surah 474, we have, "Let those who would sacrifice this life for the hereafter, so for paradise, fight in the cause of Allah, and whoever fights in Allah's cause, whether they achieve martyrdom or victory, we will honor them with a great reward." That reward is sex robots, essentially. So they're called Hurries, and they are women that are perfect. They're virgins that regenerate their virginity. Why would you want that? I don't know. Popping a cherry is gross. But these Hurries are are these sexual perfect beings that you're then able to have sex with endlessly for eternity. So like paradise in Islam is a never-ending orgy where you're drunk and eating whatever you want. So it's like all of the halal rules are taken away and you're just able to indulge as much sin as you want. That's paradise in Islam, is an eternity of sin. But it sounds good. So these passages have motivated almost all terrorism we find in the last couple of decades. So the Global Terrorism Database in 2022 noted that 70% of all terrorist attacks that have been committed over the last 2 decades were perpetrated by Islamic groups who are citing this text along with Bukhari 2795. Muslims in the first 30 years after Muhammad's death had already murdered 1 million people and taken over most of the known world at the time, even conquering much of Spain. So they took over Africa, the Middle East, Turkey, Asia a little bit, and then parts of Europe. They just conquered and conquered and conquered, and they saw a massive, it was 2.2 million square miles in less than 30 years, quoting things like Quran or Surah 9:5 and Surah 4:74, where they have a reward and they're like, hey, go out to war. And there's all sorts of other violent passages where it's like, okay, how do you punish people who make fun of Muhammad? So the punishment for those who wage war against Allah and his messenger and strive with might and main for mischief throughout the land. So this is the offense, causing mischief in the land. If you do this, you are to be executed, crucified, where they would cut your hands and feet off and then nail you onto it, or cut off the hands and feet of opposite sides of a person so they can't easily walk, or exile them from the land, for that is their disgrace in this world and a heavy punishment is theirs in the after. If you wage war against Allah or Muhammad, if you cause mischief in the land by preaching a religion that isn't Islam, or if you make fun of Muhammad, your punishment is death or crucifixion, basically torturous death or exile. But these are the ones that would actually be happening, and they still crucify. They are, to my knowledge, the only group in the world that still crucifies people. And it's awful, it's gross, it's disgusting. But it's required. Fighting has been made obligatory upon you. Though you dislike it, perhaps you dislike something which is good for you and like something which is bad for you. Allah knows and you do not know. You are to go to war. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you're a Muslim, fighting and war is required according to the Quran. According to Allah's eternal speech, war is the standard, not the exception. But once the sacred months have passed, kill the polytheist wherever you find them, capture them, besiege them, lie in wait for them on every side. But if they repent, perform prayers. Again, I've already mentioned this, but kill the polytheists wherever you find them, and fight those. This is later on in Surah 9, this is verse 29, or ayat 29. Fight those who do not believe in Allah in the last day, so fight the non-believers, nor comply with what Allah or Muhammad have forbidden. So if you do not follow halal practices, they are to fight you. If you're in a Muslim country and you eat non-halal meat, you are to be fought, nor embrace the religion of truth from among those who are given the scripture. So if you're a Christian or a Jew, the people of the book, as it says, fight them until they pay the tax, the jizya, willingly submitting, fully humbled. The idea of paying the jizya, it's tax for staying alive. If you don't pay the tax, you're to be executed. So if it's a tax where you have to go up to the Muslim, you have to hand them the money, mind you, you're not allowed to do a variety of things. Your head has to be shaved a certain way. You have to wear a certain number of clothes or a certain color of clothes. Your shoes don't match. You can't sleep in the bed if there's a Muslim there. You have to sleep like on the floor, even if he's sleeping next to your wife. Like, there's all sorts of demeaning practices that they have for Christians and Jews. Although Jews, they just typically kill. But for Christians who pay the jizya, you have to basically be willing. When it says willingly submit and humble, what that means is like they pull your head back by your hair, spit into your mouth, and then take the money from you. That's the kind of submission they want from you. So whenever we talk about, oh, Islam's kind of awful, it's kind of terrible, it is not something you would ever want to live in, this is the kind of stuff that they desire to do to you. It's really bad. I don't know what else to say about that. So we also have passages which talk about smiting off heads, so cut off the heads of those who fight back. The Abbasid Caliphate, which was the earliest one, they did 1,000 annual amputations and executions for theft and rebellion, per Al-Tabari's writings. The later Caliphate, actually no, the one right before that, the Rashidun Caliphate, they conquered everything, almost all attacks that have been committed by Muslims. There's this phrase, there's this saying that violence is worship for Allah. To commit violence is to worship Allah. And Muhammad himself led 27 military campaigns. 27. So people are like, oh, Islam is a religion of peace. The leader of him, he went into war 27 times. He slaughtered his own family, and he killed all the people in the region who disobeyed him. He beheaded personally, or he ordered the beheadings of people, hundreds of people. His military campaigns set the precedent for costing over 1 million lives in the next coming decades. And in 2022, of the 10 active civil wars, 6 of them are in Muslim majority countries. So Muslims don't only slaughter other people, they slaughter themselves too. Shiites and Sunnis have been slaughtering each other pretty much since the dawn of time. But whenever I was going into the statistics, I wanted to see, okay, how many people or how many wars in history since Islam has existed, how many of them have been involved with Islam? How many wars has Islam personally, or Muslims personally, started and engaged in? This gets into weird definitions of wars and conflicts and genocides and things like that. But if you just take all violence that's been done in the name of Allah, or done to them in order to stop them, around half of all wars that have been committed, that have happened since 700 AD, around half of them have involved Muslims. Either Muslim to Muslim or Muslim to non-Muslim. Half. Which is estimated around 1,200 to 2,500 wars have been estimated to involve Muslims since 700 AD. That's a lot. Islam spread by the sword, not the word, and in one awful evening, Muslims slaughtered over 1 million Indians in a single day, which might be a record other than maybe the fall of the temple. There's not many genocides that have been that bad, but they did it because of Surah 9:5. Or the polytheists, wherever you find them. So they found the Hindus, and they slaughtered 1 million of them in a single day. And mind you, that was with swords. It was a long time ago. It was with swords. I can't even imagine the evil in that. Also, death for apostasy. Whenever you start looking at all the sources, Islam basically just looks like a death cult. Now, there's this phrase that we love death more than they love life. This was in the Taliban's charter. It was also in a couple caliphate's writings. It was really early on that this phrase became a thing, and Osama bin Laden quoted it as well. So it's kind of coming back into a style, I guess you could say. But it's bad. It's a death cult. And it's not just a death cult for other religions, it's a death cult for themselves. The first 2 leaders, the first generation of Muslims, went to war against themselves. The earliest generation of Muslims, which was called the best generation of Muslims by Mohammed, Aisha, the mother of the faithful, Muhammad's favorite wife, she went to war against the commander of the faithful, who I think was Ali. Yeah, it was Ali. It was the 4th caliph. So even the first generation of Muslims each other, and yet people say it is a religion of peace. It's just not. It is really, truly not. So the next point is how women are treated in Islam. So Surah 33 introduces a lot of really terrible concepts. One of them is that you're allowed to have sex with your female slaves. Those your right hand possesses are yours for doing whatever you want with, specifically having sex with. It says that. We get that in a bunch of other places as well. So Surah 4:24 also says even if your slave is married, you can still have sex with them. There are Sahih Muslim 1456, Bukhari 4138, and Sahih Muslim 1438. All of those affirm that women can be raped if they're slaves, even if they have a husband. And there were even times where Muhammad's followers didn't want to have sex with a woman because she was married, even though that she was a slave. Muhammad was like, nah, go for it. And he did. So Muhammad was encouraging evil, even though it was going against the conscience of his followers. That's the type of guy Muhammad was, which we'll get to. Muhammad thinks that the majority of people in hell are women. I have seen that the majority of dwellers of hellfire are you, women. They asked, why is it so, O Muhammad? He replied, you curse frequently and are ungrateful to your husbands. I have not seen anyone more deficient in intelligence and religion than you. A cautious, sensible man could be led astray by some of you. The women asked, Muhammad, what is deficient in our intelligence and religion? He said, it is not the evidence of 2 women equal to the witness of one man? They replied in the affirmative. He said, this is the deficiency in her intelligence. Isn't it true that a woman can neither pray nor fast during her menses? The women replied in the affirmative. He said, this is the deficiency in her religion. So he is propagating something that he wrote, mind you, that women are worth half of a man. They have a lesser status inside of Islam, and because of this, they go to hell. They are stupid. He thinks that they're too stupid to be saved, which is really awful. There's also a passage where women are allowed to be beaten. So men are the caretakers of women because Allah has made them in charge of them, and He made them to excel over them. So good women are obedient, but the ungood, like the rebellious ones, banish them to beds apart. So verbally abuse them, make them sleep away from you, and beat them. Now, whenever you look at more modern readings, they add like first if they persist. This is not in the Arabic. This is added by the translator. This is a more literal translation. So verbally abuse them, give them separation anxiety, and then beat them. And then if they obey you, don't keep going. But if they don't obey you, keep going. We see this in Muhammad's own practice. He would beat his women until they were green, and he beat his child bride and caused them her great pain. There is a passage in Bukhari 58:25 where Aisha is like, I've never seen any women treated worse than the believing women. So Muslim women in the first generation were treated worse than any woman his child bride had ever seen. This gets carried over into modern day Islamic practice. In Saudi Arabia, 35% of women are abused, according to 2020 statistics. And in Pakistan, it's even higher. We don't have numbers, but I would imagine it's probably closer to 60 to 80%, because Pakistan is the worst country on the planet. And every single thing that's wrong in the world is rampant in Pakistan. And yet we are immigrating them all over the world. Anyway, in Islam, women are half as worthy, or they're worth half of a man. They make up the majority of people in hell. They can be beat for disobeying. They can be killed to preserve honor. So if a woman had sex outside of marriage, their father or brother can slaughter them. And this happens all the time in Pakistan and other Islamic countries. Has precedence in Surah 434 and Bukhari 58:25. You can also slaughter rape victims, which also has precedence, and also it happens a lot in Pakistan. So even if you're raped, if you can't get the testimony of 4 other people, 4 other men specifically, then you are killed for committing adultery. That's insane. There's also this thing called acid attacks, where men will splash acid on women's face and genitals. This happens in Pakistan quite often. There's usually around 400 annually cases, 400 cases yearly, and in Bangladesh it happens quite a bit. In Pakistan, 70% of the victims are women, and they are usually attacked for defying male relatives. So it's not just, there's this girl not wearing a burqa, I'm going to splash acid in her face. It's the dad splashing acid in the face or the genitals of a woman, essentially getting her killed. Because if a woman cannot get married, she has no purpose, she'll be killed. That's how women are treated. Female circumcision, which is cutting out the clitoris and surrounding areas, which makes the vagina dead to pleasure. So even though there are sex-crazed death cults, they cause their women to feel no pleasure by cutting out their clitorises. And this is very prevalent. 98% of women in Somalia have their clitoris removed. 87% in Egypt have their clitoris removed. 50% in Indonesia are having their clitoris removed, and it's often framed as an Islamic duty to remove the clitoris of young girls. Now, this is awful. Not only because this can cause, sepsis, infection, and death in a lot of women, but it straight up causes women to feel no joy, no pleasure in sex. It loses all meaning. It's just something that's abusive and painful for them to do. So while being a male in Islam is having 4 wives, as much sex as you want, as many sex slaves as you want, because if you grab a woman with your right hand, she is now your property that you can have sex with and rape. But for women, there's no pleasure. There's no value. There's nothing good in it. It's just awful. There's also child marriage. It's pretty rampant. Here's the verse for that. This is Surah 65:4. As for your women past the age of menstruation, in case you do not know, their waiting period, this is the time in which they can get remarried. I believe the idma. And those who have not menstruated as well. As for those who are pregnant, their waiting period ends with delivery. So for those who have not yet menstruated, for those who have no course, for those who are prepubescent, their waiting period between marriages is 3 months, and that includes sex. So this allows, and this has been, codified in Sharia. So the Ottomans had girls married at the age of 9. In Yemen, 32% of girls are married before the age of 18. Nigeria, Bangladesh also use Aisha's example of being married at 9. Well, being married at 6, consummated at 9, because that's what it was. So child marriage is still extremely common. In Niger, 76% of girls marry before the age of 18. And whenever you have sex with a child, this can cause fistulas, which is when the vagina and the anus merge together and becomes one whole. And this is very hard to heal. You can do surgery to heal it, but a lot of the times the men don't even wait for it to fully heal, so they have sex with their child bride again. And then that causes the fistula to reopen. And this can be permanent damage. And whenever this happens, a lot of the times the women are just killed because it's dishonorable to not be able to please your husband. It's pretty awful. Then that's not even to mention the grooming gangs in Europe and the excess of millions of rapes that happened in a decade. Over 50,000 girls. So all these girls that were being raped all over UK and Europe. Even in Germany, they had no-go zones for women because they would be raped. So this type of behavior from the Pakistanis in the UK and from the other Muslims, this is not just a Pakistan problem, this is not just an immigrant problem, this is an Islam problem. And you look at the events that happened to the Jewish women on October 7th. I've seen videos and images of it. They were brutalized. And part of it is they're Jew. You're to kill Jews, you're to mistreat them, you're to abuse them, and you are to kill women and abuse them and mistreat them. You get a Jewish woman, they don't even see them as human. They don't even see them as insect. They just see them as a thing to rape and kill and do whatever they want with in the most horrific, brutal ways possible. So whenever we talk about, oh, well, that's not Islam, that's just radical Islam. I mean, yeah, sure. Radical Islam is the snake in the grass that is waiting to bite you. But moderate Islam is the grass hiding the snake. Now, you might think they don't know it. A lot of them do. Most Muslims in the UK are pro-Sharia law. They are pro-death for apostasy. They are pro-honor killing. It's bad. It's really bad. So, wave of apostasy, violence within Islam, women being treated horrendously. Also, Jesus. This is point number 7. Jesus in Islam is not Jesus. His name is Isa, which in Arabic is Esau. And the reason why he's called that is because Jews called him Esau as a derogatory term, making fun of him because Esau is the brother that was not chosen by God. So, Mohammed didn't know that. And instead of using the Arabic, which is Yasu, because they actually have an Arabic word for Jesus, which is Yasu, and a lot of Arabic Christians call him Yasu. Muslims, they call him Isa because Muhammad didn't know any better. So he's not actually Isa. That's just wrong. But the Quran also just completely doesn't affirm Jesus in any way. They say the Quran in Surah 5, Surah 4, they say he isn't God. Gets the Trinity wrong because in Surah 5, 116, it has that Mary, the Father, so as the Father, the Mother, and the Son as the Trinity, rather than the Father, the Holy Spirit, and the Son. So it doesn't understand the Trinity. It thinks that they're 3 separate gods. And whenever it talks about Jesus in the end times, it says that he's essentially the Antichrist. He's going to come back, he's going to kill all the Christians, he's going to cause everyone to become Muslim, the great apostasy of Christianity, and he's going to kill the one who appears to be Jesus, the Dajjal. So, Jesus is not the same person, he is not God with us, he is not the one who died on the cross, because in Surah 4, 157, it says that he did not die on the cross, but Allah made it appear so. So Allah tricked everyone into believing Christianity, but if you believe in Christianity, you're going to hell. So Allah is sending all the Christians to hell. The most damning piece of evidence against Islam, though, is there's all sorts of contradictions within the Quran. In Surah 66:12, we have that the daughter Mary, the mother of Jesus, is the daughter of Imran, who guarded her chastity and we breathed into her our spirit, and she testified to the truth of the words of her Lord and his revelations, and she was one of the devout. So Gabriel came to her and she got pregnant. And in Surah 19:28, O sister of Aaron, thy father was not of man of evil, and her mother was one unchaste. And if you read all of it, it's talking about Jesus and goes into like Gnostic sources and all that. So she is called the sister of Aaron and the daughter of Imran. Well, that doesn't make any sense. The daughter of Imran and the sister of Aaron is also the sister of Moses. It's Miriam from Exodus. So Mohammed, because Miriam and Mary is the same word in Arabic, he thought that the Miriam of Moses and the Miriam of Jesus was the same person. So the Quran gets Mary wrong and it gets Jesus wrong. In the Quran, Jesus is the nephew of Moses, which is why whenever whenever we see the genealogies in the Quran of the prophets, Jesus and Moses are right next to each other, because he didn't know that Jesus, the son of David, mind you, Jesus was not the nephew of Moses. He thought they were the same person. So Jesus is entirely wrong. Another lie that you get told a lot is that the Quran has not been corrupted. This, just generally speaking, is not true. There's different manuscript traditions. So there's the Qirat, which are different Arabic versions of the Quran. So there are over 10, but there's 10 main ones. The one that most Muslims use comes from, I believe, 1924. It's like less than 100 years old. It's right around 100 years old. And it's the Hafs version. There's also the Warsh version, which I believe is used in Northern Africa. And these two versions, just those alone, has, I think, over 100,000 differences between them. And they're not just merely spelling differences. It's not like the differences between the Great Isaiah Scroll and what we have today. No, it's like entire paragraphs that are entire changed. There's different lengths of surahs. There's entirely new surahs in some of them. And in Keith Small's work, Textual Criticism and the Quran Manuscripts, he goes over the 20 Qur'an and the thousands of manuscript differences between them. So for sure, the Quran has not been preserved. Uthman burned. So the, I believe, second caliph, the other second or the third one, he burned all the manuscripts. So there were all these different versions of the Quran, and he gathered them together and burned them and made one standard version that he then spread out. Well, then over the next 1,000 years, 20 other versions came out of it, so that didn't even work. But he corrected it, and he didn't correct it, he edited it to what he wanted. But we know for a fact the Quran has not been preserved because of a couple different passages. So this is important because in the Quran, in Surah 15:9, we have that Allah will certainly preserve the Quran. He will keep it from corruption. Yet, we know for a fact it's been corrupted because of the mouth of Aisha. The verse of stoning and breastfeeding an adult 10 times was revealed. This was in Surah 33. And the paper was with me under my pillow when the messenger of Allah died. We were preoccupied with his death, and a tame sheep came in and ate it. There's another that says that a goat came in and ate it. This surah is, I think, 120 verses long, but it was originally over 200. So there was over 80 verses of Surah 33 that were eaten by a goat and entirely lost. We don't know what they are. The best we know is that they were about breastfeeding. So if you don't want a man to be lusting after a woman, you then have him suckle on her breast. How that wouldn't make you want to have sex with her, I have no idea. Every time I've suckled on the breast of a woman, other than my mother, I've wanted to have sex with her. So, of all my girlfriends and my wife, I've sucked on their boobs, wanted to have sex with them. I can't, the wisdom of Allah, the hikmah and sucking on boobs to make you not want to have sex with a woman. It's amazing. Is the proof of this stupid book. Anyway, so we have goats ate it in the Sahih Muslim 2286. We have that there's different versions of the Quran. So Surah, in Abu Masud's version, he omitted Surah 1, 113, and 114 as prayers. Ibn Qayyab had 2 extra surahs, Al-Haft and Al-Qal. And then Ibn Masud's Surah 2, 275 had less words than Uthman's. And then there's all these things about like abrogation and passages being removed and all this. And then the most damning piece of evidence is the Battle of Yamama, which is recorded in Bukhari 4986. And we have after this, Uthman speaking, I believe, it says, "Let no one of you say that he has acquired the entire Quran, for how does he know all that is in it? Much of the Quran has been lost, thus let him say, I have acquired what is available of it." And this is because in the Battle of Yamama, they put the Quran reciters on the front line, thinking that Allah would protect them because he said he will preserve the Quran. So they put the Quran reciters on the front line, those who had memorized it, and they were They lost the battle really badly. And because of this, they lost major portions of the Quran. It's just gone. We don't have it anymore. So the Quran has been corrupted. According to the Islamic sources, the Quran has been corrupted. And yet, according to the Surah, I believe 19, according to Mohammed, according to Allah's eternal speech, Surah 15, according to Surah 15:9, that can't happen. Yet, according to the Muslim sources, it's been corrupted. So either the Quran is wrong or the Quran is wrong, pretty much. Which gets me to my next point. The fifth thing you should know is the Islamic dilemma. You should memorize this. You should learn this. I'm currently part of a project that is working on diving into this and learning every single thing about it. I'm going to give a short version of it now. In the Quran, we have, in the footsteps of the prophets, we sent Jesus, son of Mary, confirming the Torah revealed before him, and we gave him the gospel containing guidance and a light and confirming what was revealed in the Torah. So it confirmed the Torah, a guide and a lesson to the God-fearing, to those who have the law. So let the people of the gospel judge by what Allah has revealed in it, and let those who do not judge by what Allah has revealed are the truly rebellious. Those who do not judge by the gospel are rebellious. So if you don't want to be rebellious to Allah, you have to judge by what's in the gospel. So us Christians, the people of the book, the people of the gospel, we must judge by the gospel what is true. And he says to Christians, "O Jesus, I will take you and raise you up to myself. I will deliver you from those who disbelieve and elevate your followers above the disbelievers until the day of judgment." He will make Christians superior to everyone else. Christians will become the uppermost. And yet, if you read the Bible, you will know that it contradicts the Quran. So Surah 576 or 73, I believe, says that Jesus was never crucified. The Bible says he was crucified. The gospel says he was crucified on many different accounts. Almost, I think, every single book of the Bible in the New Testament, even a lot of the Old Testament, like Psalm 22 and Isaiah 53, they say he was crucified. So Quran contradicts itself. If the Quran is true, it's false because it contradicts the scriptures and it says the scriptures are true. If the Quran's not true, it's not true. So either the Quran's not true or it's not true. Either way, the Quran is false. So the next section is Muhammad is a false prophet. We'll go really quickly through this one. In Surah 30, he is predicting that the Romans will be defeated by the Byzantines within 3 to 9 years. This did happen, but it took 15 years. So the Arabic word used here means a short period of time in just a few years, and it's specifically 3 to 9 years. So this is just for sure a false prophecy that did not happen. In Bukhari 71:16, we have the hour will not be established until the booties of the women of the tribe of Daus move, like it jiggles while they go around the Dai al-Qalasa shrine. So it's an idol shrine. So the hour, the end will not come until the booties of the women jiggle while they dance around an idol. Well, this is an issue because this idol is destroyed and this tribe is gone because Muslims them. So this is for sure just a false prophecy that cannot happen. It's not there. We know Muhammad's a false prophet. So there's all these false prophecies. There's the end times prophecies where there'll be more women than men, even though it's not true. There's more men than women right now. He claimed to be found in the Bible. He's not. You can go check out my other video on it if he's in the Bible. He is actually found in the Bible, just not really where they say he is. He is a donkey of a man. That's a foretaste of my other video. And all of his revelations just seem to favor him and give him rewards, like his personal wish fulfillment. So there was a thing where women or men can only have 4 wives, but he had like 11 to 13 plus a bunch of sex slaves. He married his daughter-in-law. He had sex with his dead aunt in her grave, and he had sex with a child. And he started having all these revelations where he's like, okay, yeah, let's just make it easier for me to get what I want. He got most of the money from everything that they did. So he made himself rich and had sex and was a hypocrite. He went back on all of his promises and oaths. And he was just an all-around pretty terrible dude. But we have in the Quran that if Muhammad failed to bring down what was brought of him, if he spoke in something other than Muhammad in his name, Allah would have certainly seized Muhammad by his right hand and severed his aorta. This is important because as Muhammad was dying, he said, "Oh Aisha, I still feel pain caused by the food I ate at Khaybar," where he was poisoned by a Jewish woman. "And at this time, I feel as if my aorta is being cut from that poison." And then he died. So the Quran says, hey, if Muhammad's a false prophet, I'm going to sever his aorta. Muhammad died while saying his aorta was being severed. He's a false prophet. He's also a terrible person, which gets into number 3. Muhammad is a bad man. Most Muslims do not know Muhammad is a bad dude. They think he is a great guy. They think he is charitable. They think he established all these rights for women, which he kind of did, but he also abused his wives and them. He did all these good things. He, cared about the environment and the animals and the trees. He was so compassionate and loving. He was the best of all people. He was sinless. He is essentially Jesus. In reality, he is one of the worst humans who's ever lived. So this is just going to be a quick rundown of the types of things that he did. Why is this important though? Is because of Surah 33:21. Verily in the messenger of Allah, you have a good example from him who look upon Allah and the last day and remember Allah much. The Muhammad, the prophet, is an example of how you are to live in Islam. This is really bad. This is really bad. Not only because, he married a 9-year-old. Well, no, he married a 6-year-old. So the prophet married Aisha when she was 6 years old and he had sex with her when she was 9. There's a bunch of sources on that. So he was a pedophile. He also sucked on the tongues of little boys and kissed their penises. He wanted to marry an infant. Whenever he was looking at her crawl around, he said, hey, if she's if I'm still alive, whenever she grows up, I'm going to marry her. Mind you, he married the 6-year-old whenever he was in his 50s. So he was old enough to be her grandfather, and he married her. And if you were to push like the age of childbearing to like 13 or 16, he could have been her great grandfather, and yet he wanted to marry her. So definitely a pedophile. He's definitely a rapist. He raped a lot of his slaves. He had sex with a lot of his slaves. He was a slaver. He owned black African slaves and called them raisin heads. The earliest biography we have of Muhammad comes from 300 years later, and the dude who found it, the first one who wrote it was Ibn Ashik. The one who found it was Ibn Hisham, and he specifically removed large parts of the biography because he believed it was too unbelievable, and he just couldn't believe it. So the earliest sources we have in Muhammad, all garbage. He might not even existed, but if he did exist, he was awful. So he was sexually deviant. He was always covered in semen, and he married his daughter-in-law after causing the divorce because he saw her naked. He may have had sex with a camel. There was one Islamic source on that. There was a hadith on that. It's probably a weak hadith, and I can't find it anymore online, but I found someone who had translated it, and then it was removed from sunnah.com. So he may have had sex with a camel. He for sure had sex with his wife who had been tanning, and if you know anything about tanning produces this horrible smell that sticks to your skin. So he saw a woman, lusted so hard that he ran to his wife that was tanning, and then decided to have sex with her before she bathed, while she was still just disgusting. It was like essentially rolling around in rotten waste. He could not control his lust so badly that he had sex with a woman who smelled like she had just rolled around in rotten garbage. That's the type of dude that is the example of all of Islam. Not only that, he might have been bisexual. So he had this maybe affair with the handsomest man in Arabia. Ooh. Dia Al-Kabi, the boy wonder, Diha. Diha was caught sleeping in the Prophet's room with him. He was caught with Muhammad's head on his lap. He embraced him. There was one hadith where the guy embraced him and like squeezed Muhammad's stomach and then kissed it. And then there's another hadith where a man, like Muhammad, ran up behind him and hugged him from behind and said, "Guess who?" And it's very, very homoerotic. There's a lot of homoerotic literature about Muhammad, and it very well been like Muhammad was always covered in semen. Who's to say it was Muhammad's semen? Muhammad is also a cross-dresser. He used to wear Aisha's clothing while receiving revelations. He was a murderer. He ordered the executions of 600, 900 men after they surrendered. This is of the Banu Qurayza, the Banu tribe. He ordered the assassination of Qayyab ibn al-Ashraf after she made fun of him. And he also ordered the death of all dogs, specifically black dogs. So he got burned from Diha. Diha's nickname was the dog. So in the Muslim sources, in Bukhari 3323, there is a death order for dogs in Islam. They kill puppies. I'm not even kidding. In Pakistan, they will kick dogs to death if they find them in the street, especially black dogs. If nothing else in this video makes you angry, them killing puppies should make you angry. He was also a coward. He ran away from battle. He sent people to front line whenever he just wanted to have sex with his wives. So he issued all these wars, but he didn't fight in all of them because he was scared for some of them. He was a fat old man for a lot of them. He was a greedy thief. He was a caravan robber. He once tortured a man for money, then raped his wife. He like married his wife after her husband, her father, and her brother. I'm sure that was consensual. He was a liar and a hypocrite. He said that he wasn't gonna have sex with his slave in the bed of his wife, and then he still did it. And then he got a revelation saying, "Oh, you can break your oaths. It doesn't matter." So he's a hypocrite. He killed people who criticized him and mocked him. Asama bint Maran was a female woman who, while she was nursing her baby, a Muslim man whom Muhammad ordered to kill her, took her baby off of her breast and then struck her, driving his sword through her chest. The mother of 5. She made fun of Muhammad. Muhammad had her executed. The mother of 5 children. And of course, Muhammad went to hell from his own mouth. So the last 2 things that are really important to know is that Allah is not Yahweh. Not even close. They're not the same whatsoever. Allah wants you to sin. He said that if you didn't sin, he would have killed all of humanity and started over. So if humans never sinned, he would have just wiped us all out. So he desires for us to sin in order to be able to show his mercy. That's not very merciful. That's not very loving. He hates humanity. He is the father of no one. Yahweh is the father of all. We get in Ephesians 4:6. Yahweh became a man to die for us and to save us in the person of Jesus. Allah throws Christians and Jews in hell to forgive the debt and sins of Muslims who don't deserve it. So we're talking about, oh, what is Allah's justice? There is none. none. Yahweh is just, Allah is not. Allah is the best of deceivers. Yahweh is truth and light. Allah hates people. Yahweh wants everyone to repent. Allah loves sin. Yahweh wants everyone to repent and come and believe and not perish. He doesn't want evil to be punished. He wants his grace, mercy, and love to triumph, so he became a man to die for us. Allah laughs as he people, as he deceives people into hellfire, as he deceives Christians into hellfire. They're not the same. Yahweh is a trinity. Allah is Tawheed, and Tawheed makes literally no sense. And the last and most important thing is Allah is logically impossible and makes absolutely no sense. So the names of Allah do not work. They don't make any sense. We get the names of Allah from the Quran. He has 99 names, and all of them are taken directly from the Quran. But all of these names require, most of these names require an object to exist for it to actually be true. But these names are meant to be eternal because it's the eternal word of Allah. So these are the only way you can know Allah, because Allah is so supernatural. He's so exalted. He's so above everything else that there is absolutely no way you can know him. He's an unknowable deity. The only way you can know him is through his angels, like Gabriel, Jibril, who reveal him to prophets such as Mohammed and Jesus, according to Islam, and by his names. So his names have to be eternal qualities of Allah, yet there's a lot of names like the bringer of death and the giver of life, Al-Mumit and Al-Muhi. These things contradict this idea, because in order for him to bring death and to bring life, there had to be something that could possess life. There had to be creation. But in order for his names to be eternal, they have to be true outside of creation. They have to be true and self-sufficient before creation exists. Otherwise, it's a contradiction. And in the same way, his top 3 names, most compassionate, the most merciful, the bestower of mercy, and the loving one, or the most loving. So Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, and Al-Wadud, these names cannot be true without an object of his mercy, without an object of his love. If there is nothing else, he cannot love himself, and he cannot be merciful to himself, because he has not done any evil. Unless you think Allah is evil and needs mercy from himself, there's already a contradiction there. So his names cannot be eternal. It doesn't make any sense. So there's a contradiction within Allah's own 99 names. And in the same way, there's a contradiction within his anatomy, because he is said to be solid and not void, or he can't poop. And yet it says that he has bowels, and it says that he has a penis or testicles. It's not very clear, because Islamic sources are pretty garbage. It also says that he has 2 right hands, a shin, I think 2 left feet. Like, I'll show an image of a depiction of Allah's anatomy, but he makes absolutely no sense. So he is a transcendent, non-physical deity who possesses human-like features, which makes absolutely no sense. So he is non-physical, yet he's physical. He's non-physical and incorporeal, yet he has 2 hands. What? Doesn't make any sense. Also, we get in Surah 3:47 and Surah 6:101 that Allah can create from nothing, yet he couldn't have made, like, Jesus can't be the son of Allah, because Allah would need a spouse in order to procreate. Even though it's easy for Allah to make whatever he wants, his creation of a son is limited. It's also why he's not called a father of anyone. And both because Muhammad had daddy issues and mommy issues, which is why his first wife was the exact age of his mother, even though his mother died when he was a child, and his father abandoned him. So he had abandonment issues and mommy and daddy issues, and we see that in his personal life. But the Quran says specifically, and he needs a mate in order to procreate, in order to make offspring. That's very dumb. It doesn't make any logical sense. If he can create Adam from dust, why couldn't he create a Jesus from dust and call him his son? Also, just to end the video, Allah can't enter reality because he is transcendent, yet he does so all of the time. So he appears to Moses physically in Surah 20, most of the beginning of Surah 20, so like verses 9 to 14. He appears to him in the burning bush, and he speaks, and this is not just the voice of Allah like popping up into reality. In Surah 4, 164, we have Allah saying that he appeared physically to Moses. So Surah 20 is him physically appearing to Moses, for sure. So he actually entered into reality. So whenever Muslims, this is what a very common critique of Muslims is, oh, God can't enter into reality, that's contradiction. The Quran says he did, flat out. So this is something good to know. Whenever you're arguing with a Muslim, you should know, hey, the Quran says Allah did enter reality, and then in the hadiths, like Bukhari 1145 and Muslim 1261, says he enters the sky at night in the, I think, last third of the night. He enters into the sky. So this makes sense if you're a 7th century Arabian imbecile who doesn't understand that the earth goes around the sun and then it spins, because he thinks that the sun comes up and sets in a muddy pool. So because of this, he made the statement that Allah enters into the atmosphere, into the sky at night just before the sun rises. Well, the problem is that it's always night somewhere on the earth. So if Allah is entering into the earth at night, he is always here. So he's always in reality. Now, they'll be like, oh, weak hadith, even though it's Bukhari and Muslim. Or they'll be like, oh, the Quran only, even though Surah 4 says he physically met Moses. So there's a contradiction there. There's contradiction in how Muslims understand Allah. There's contradiction in Tawheed, because Tawheed is like all the pages of the Quran, or all the surahs are different birds, and it just doesn't make any sense. Tawheed is really, really broken. I'm going to make a video just on Tawheed. I'll make videos on a lot of this and go really in depth into a lot of this. I might end up cutting some of this content because this is a pretty long recording. So to summarize, Muslims are leaving the religion in record numbers. We need to accelerate that. Let's make Islam cease to exist by 2030. Muslims teach war and violence as part of their religion. Women are second-class citizens. There's no woman that should be pro-Islam. Jesus is not the Jesus of Islam. The Quran has been corrupted, and it contradicts itself, and the Islamic dilemma disproves Islam because it disproves the Quran. Without the Quran, there's nothing. Muhammad is a false prophet, which without Muhammad and without the Quran, Islam is nothing. So if there's only two things you memorize from this video, it's the Islamic dilemma showing the Quran is false, and it is Muhammad being a false prophet for sure, because his prophecies have failed. They can't possibly come true. So if Muhammad is a false prophet and he died in the way Muhammad said he would, if he was a false prophet, and the Quran is false, which it is, Islam is nothing. There is no basis of Islam. Not only that, Muhammad was a bad person. Yahweh and Allah are not the same. The God of the Bible and the God of the Quran are not the same God. Don't treat them the same way. They are not the same way. Islam is not an Abrahamic faith. It is a pagan faith that has brought in some elements, but it's mostly Gnostic sources. So don't trust it, and Allah cannot possibly occur. He is illogical and he makes no sense. And the ending words of the apostate prophet: stay away from Islam.